everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my most anticipated releases for 2021. All of these books are upcoming releases that I've heard about throughout the year via either YouTube or I've seen on Goodreads. There are 15 books on this list that I want to talk about and why I'm excited for them. I think these are mostly going to be like contemporary novels, so yeah, let's get straight into it. So the first book I am going to be talking about is Reputation by Lex Croucher. This is her debut novel. I know her from YouTube basically, and this isn't like your typical YouTuber book, I guess, whatever that really means. I follow her on Instagram and I've seen her working on this novel for like a really long time. I know she basically did it off her own back. She wasn't approached by a publisher. So this is a historical fiction novel. It's a classic rom-com with a Regency era twist for fans of Mean Girls and or Jane Austen. It's about a girl called Georgiana Ellis who has been abandoned by her parents and has moved to a new town to live with her aunt and uncle. At a particularly dull party, she meets the enigmatic Francis Campbell, a wealthy member of the in crowd who lives a life Georgiana couldn't have imagined in her wildest dreams. Lonely and vulnerable, Georgiana falls in with Francis and her unfathomably rich, deeply improper friends, but the price of entry to high society might just be higher than Georgiana is willing to pay. Historical fiction is a genre I sometimes go for. It's not something I naturally gravitate towards, but I'm very keen to check this out, especially as I've kind of followed the author as she's been writing this book as well. Then of course I have to mention Heartstopper Volume 4 by Alice Oseman. The cover just got released like last week I think. I think it's gorgeous. I love the colour scheme of it. If you don't know, I'm a massive fan of the Heartstopper series. It's like one of my favourite graphic novels, my favourite series in general, and in case you don't know as well, the whole series is about Charlie and Nick and them meeting and falling in love. So Alice Oseman, she's been updating the comics via Tapas. There's already like bits of this story out in the world, so I have only read like the first few pages of it, but I've been holding off reading the rest until like the rest of the volume is out. But in this story, Nick and Charlie are now officially boyfriends. Charlie's beginning to feel ready to say those 3 little words, I love you. Nick's been feeling the same, but he's got a lot on his mind, not least coming out to his dad and the fact that Charlie might have an eating disorder. As summer turns to autumn and a new school year begins, Charlie and Nick are about to learn a lot about what love means. So yeah, I know this one is going to be a bit more like serious. Like it got mentioned in volume 3 that Charlie has had experience of an eating disorder, so I think we're going to get more into that. It's going to get quite heavy, but I'm really looking forward to it, and this is coming out on May 13th. I forgot to mention that Reputation is coming out on July the 8th. Next is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Casey McQuiston is obviously the author of Red, White and Real Blue, which was massively popular. I read it back in January and I loved it. And this one is another romance book that involves time travel, and it's about 23-year-old girl called August, and she meets a girl called Jane on the subway, and August realises that Jane is displaced in time from the 1970s. The book has been described as a sexy, big-hearted romance where the impossible becomes possible as August does everything in her power to save the girl lost in time. This book is coming out on the 1st of June. I've seen on Goodreads, 3 people have already received and read arcs of the book, and we've all given it like really positive reviews, which is great to hear and just makes me even more excited to read this book. Gives me hope that this is going to be as good as, if not better than, Red, White and Real Blue. Next is Katin Waiting by Becky Albertalli. I have previously read most of Becky Albertalli's other books. The only one I haven't yet is The Upper Side of Unrequited, and I do enjoy her books. I didn't really like What If It's Us with Adam Silvera, but the rest of the books I've given like 3 stars or more, although I do still think my favourite book of hers that I've read is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda. But Katin Waiting is a rom-com, and it's about these best friends called Kate and Anderson, and it's basically about them both having a crush on the same guy, and it seems like the main characters are both really into theatre. I think in general just the idea and synopsis of this book sounds really fun. You could say it's like a slightly fact and fiction-y trope of like a straight girl and a gay guy both fancying the same person, but I don't know, I feel like this could be really cute and fun. Just a light-hearted young adult romance to read. Next we have a debut novel called Counting Down With You by Tashi Brian. The first time I actually heard of this book is via Twitter, because the author is basically a friend of a friend. Well, she's friends with a girl I'm in mutuals with on Twitter, and she shared this book when it was like announced, before it even had a cover. I thought it sounded really fun and interesting, so I decided to add it to my wish list and add it to my Goodreads. And it features a Bangladeshi American protagonist. It's got a fake dating trope, it's got lots of in-depth discussions of mental health, but the actual synopsis of this book is Karina Ahmed has a plan: keep her head down, get through high school without a fuss, and follow her parents' rules, even if it means sacrificing her dreams. While her parents go abroad to Bangladesh for 4 weeks, Karina expects some peace and quiet. Instead, one simple line unravels everything. Karina is my girlfriend. Tutoring the school's resident bad boy was already crossing a line, pretending to date him out of the question. But Ace Clyde does everything right. He brings her coffee in the mornings, impresses her friends without trying, and even promises to buy her a dozen books if she goes along with his fake dating facade. Though Karina agrees, she can't help but start counting down the days until her parents come back. So I know fake dating is quite a popular trope, but I've only read it once before with the To All the Boys I've Loved Before books. I remember reading To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I thought initially that the idea of fake dating was a bit weird, but I don't know, I'm kind of into it now, especially when it like leads to deeper feelings and it leads to an actual eventual romance, which it sounds like this book is going to. So yeah, there's that. And this book comes out on the 4th of May. Next is something a bit different. It's Witches Steeped in Gold by Sian Smart. This is a young adult fantasy, which isn't actually a genre I usually gravitate towards, but I quite like the idea of stories about witches, and this has already received a lot of hype, a lot of positive reviews. It's a Jamaican-inspired fantasy debut, which is a thrilling journey where dangerous magic reigns supreme and betrayal lurks beneath every word. It's about Araya, who has spent her life in a cell, and Jasmine, who is the Queen's daughter, but unlike her sister before her, she has no intention of dying to strengthen her mother's power. Sworn enemies, these two witches enter a precarious alliance to take down a mutual threat. Also, the cover is just absolutely gorgeous as well, and I'm kind of getting Children of Blood and Bone vibes from this, which is a series I really like as well. So I am excited to read it when it comes out on the 20th of April. Next is Like Home by Louisa Onome. I just realised I maybe should have done these in chronological order throughout the year, because this book is coming out on the 23rd of February, which is the earliest book we've had so far, but you know what, it's done. This book is a young adult contemporary. It's described as for fans of Netflix's On My Block, In the Heights, and readers of Elizabeth Acevedo and Ibiza Boy. I've read both of those authors and I really enjoyed them. I gave Pride by Ibiza Boy 4 stars, and same with Elizabeth Acevedo's books. And it's about a girl whose life is turned upside down after one local act of vandalism throws her relationships and even her neighbourhood into turmoil. It sounds like a really interesting story, to be honest, and again the cover is beautiful, and I think just the fact that it's for readers of Elizabeth Acevedo and Ibiza Boy has already had me sold. The next book I'm talking about is also, I guess, kind of a similar vibe. It is Home is Not a Country by Sophia Elio, because this is also described for fans of the Poetex, which is written by Elizabeth Acevedo, because this is a novel written in verse, and I'm an absolute slut for books written in verse. I love them. It's about a girl called Nima who doesn't feel understood by a mother who grew up far away in a different land by her white suburban town, which feels both dangerous and familiar. At least she has her childhood friend Hatham, with who she can let her guard out and be herself. Until she doesn't, as the ground is pulled out from under her, Nina must grapple with the phantom of a life not chosen, the name her parents didn't give her at birth, Yasmin, but that other name, that other girl, might just be more real than Nima knows and more hungry. It's described that this book is a story of mothers and daughters, friends and enemies, journeys and homecomings, and realising that sometimes the person you're meant to be has been staring at you in the mirror all along. And that book is also going to be out in February on the 2nd. The next book I want to talk about is another young adult contemporary. It's called After Love by Tanya Byrne. Another book with an absolutely beautiful, striking cover. I love it. And the tagline of this book is the lesbian love story you've been dying to read, which honestly sounds iconic. And this book is about Ash Persaud, who is about to become a reaper in the afterlife, but she's determined to see her first love, Poppy Morgan, again. The only thing that separates them is death. The last thing Ash hears is the snap of breaking glass as the windscreen hits her and breaks into a million pieces like stars. But she's made it. She's still here. Or is she? This New Year's Eve, Ash gets an RSVP from the afterlife she can't decline to join a clan of fierce girl reapers who take the souls of the city's dead to await their fate. But Ash can't forget her first love Poppy, and she'll do anything to see her again, even if it means they only get a few more days together, dead or alive. So it's kind of funny that first genre this book is listed as is a contemporary, because it is like kind of fantasy a bit, because that synopsis does sound to me more like fantasy-ish. It's like fantasy paranormal, because obviously, you know, it's involving ghosts. I think regardless of like the plot of this book is, I think just like the fact in general that this is a female-female romance has me sold on the book, regardless of whether this book is actually fantasy or contemporary or not. I'm just quite excited and jealous to get to read this. It's going to be published on the 10th of June. Then we have a fantasy reimagining, The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nebo. Nebo is also the author of An Empress of Salt and Fortune, When the Tigers Came Down the Mountain, so the Singing Hill Cycle series. Those books are both novellas, which I've heard a lot about. I haven't read them myself, but I would really like to. I've heard good things about both of them, and both of those books are like really short books. They're both basically novellas, and this is her first like full-length novel, I think. And this book is a reimagining of The Great Gatsby as a queer Asian American coming-of-age story, which just sounds so cool and interesting. Great Gatsby is a novel in general. I read it in like 2013 whenever the film came out. I think I liked it, but I can't really remember my opinion of it that much. And I was quite young when I read it, so I don't feel like I maybe appreciated it that much. But yes, this is another book with a beautiful cover. It's about a girl called Jordan Baker. I think she's basically meant to be like Daisy within like, you know, the Great Gatsby novel, and she's an immigrant. She's a magician, apparently. And again, fantasy isn't a genre I usually go towards naturally, but I'm here for any like fantasy with like a queer story. I think just like, you know, the whole concept in general, it sounds so interesting and exciting, and it comes out on the 1st of June. Quite a short book. It's only 272 pages, so yeah, there's that. Next is another queer book. It's Honey, An Issue's Guide to Fake Dating by Adama Jagadar. She is the author of The Henna Wars, which came out this year, and I believe the paperback is coming out in the UK in February. That book I haven't read yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about, and I am really excited to read that in general. And I guess I'm equally excited to read her next book, which is this one. Our main character is Honey, and she comes out to her friends as bisexual. They invalidates her identity, saying she can't be bi if she's only dated guys. Panicked, Honey blurts out that she's in a relationship with a girl her friends absolutely hate. Issue is the complete opposite of Honey. She agrees to help Honey if Honey will help her become more popular, so that she just stands a chance of being elected head girl. Despite their mutually beneficial pact, they start developing real feelings for each other, but relationships are complicated, and some people will do anything to stop two Bengali girls from achieving happily ever after. I know I've said for basically all these books that the idea and concept for them are really exciting, but this one is like the one that when I read like the first couple of sentences, I was like the most sold and excited about. Like, I think it just sounds so fun. It's another fake dating story, which, you know, is a really popular trope, and I guess it's something that excites me now. It's something I want to get into, and it is being released on the 25th of May, and it is being released on the 25th of May. And then we have a young adult thriller. It's She's Too Pretty to Burn by Wendy Hurd, and this is a reimagining of The Picture of Dorian Gray as a psychological thriller featuring sapphic girls and murder. I haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray, but I want to get into more thrillers next year, and I think this book could be really exciting and interesting. It's about a girl called Veronica who is bored and uninspired in her photography, Nico, who is insatiable and obsessed with chaotic performance art, the artist first, best friend second, but that was before Mick, the perfect subject and Veronica's dream girl. The days are long and hot, full of adventure, and soon they are falling in love, falling so hard that they never imagine what comes next. One fire, two murders, three drowning bodies, one suspect, one stalker. This is a summer they won't survive. And this is described as for fans of E. Lockhart, Lauren Oliver and Carver Thomas. I've read most of E. Lockhart's books. The only kind of like thrillery ones are We Were Liars and Genuine Fraud. I really liked We Were Liars. Genuine Fraud I was a bit iffy on, but yeah, hopefully this one is going to be good. Next we have Rise to the Sun by Leah Johnson. Leah Johnson's debut novel came out this year, You Should See Me in a Car, which I read and really liked. This is a novel about being brave enough to be true to yourself and learning to find joy even when times are unimaginably dark. It is set at a music festival, and it's about somebody called Tony who is grieving the loss of her father and needing to figure out where her life will go from there, and Olivia, who is a hopeless romantic whose heart is just taking a beating. They meet at this music festival and they form a bond. When something goes wrong and the music festival is sent into a panic, Olivia and Tony will find that they need each other and music more than they ever imagined. As I already said, I really liked Leah Johnson's first book, so I guess safe to say I'm excited about this one, and it is coming out on the 6th of July. Next we have People Like Her by Ellery Lloyd. This is a thriller that I actually heard about from Drinking by My Shelf. She talked about this in one of her wrap-up videos, I believe. She talked about this in one of her videos because she had read the arc, and it's about an influencer mum. To her adoring fans, Emmy Jackson is the honest insta mum who always tells it like it is. To her skeptical husband who knows just how creative Emmy can be with the truth, she is a breadwinning powerhouse, chillingly brilliant at monetizing the intimate details of their family life. To one of Emmy's dangerously obsessive followers, she's the woman that has everything but deserves none of it. As Emmy's marriage begins to crack under the strain of her growing success and her moral compass veers wildly off course, the more vulnerable she becomes to a very real danger circling ever closer to her family. So yeah, this book is apparently raising important questions about technology, social media, celebrity, and like probing the dark side of influencer culture and the perils of parenting online. And as I think I mentioned in another video, I have somehow ended up following quite a few like mummy influencers on Instagram. The fact that this book is based on like an influencer mum really piqued my interest. As I've already said, I really want to get into reading more thrillers next year, and yeah, this book comes out actually in January 12th, so one that I don't have to wait a long time for to get to reading. Then finally we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Obviously everybody knows Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's the author of Daisy Jones and the Six. Evelyn Hugo is one of my favourite books. Daisy Jones and the Six I read and I thought it was okay really. I gave it 3.5 stars, but this is another historical fiction from Taylor Jenkins Reid, and it actually features a character from Evelyn Hugo, McReaver. It's about one of his daughters, and it's about 4 famous siblings throwing an epic party to celebrate the end of summer, but over the course of 24 hours their lives will change forever. So the books I've mentioned are the only ones of Taylor Jenkins Reid that I've read. So Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones both have quite unique formats, I guess, in the way that the story is told. And I've heard that this book is going to be a bit more traditional in the way that it has been written, so we'll see what I think of it. It is coming out on the 25th of May. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but a lot of books tend to come out in like May and June. I don't know why. I'm not a massive expert. I'm not super knowledgeable about the world of publishing and why books get published at a certain time. So those are 15 books that are upcoming releases in 2021 that I'm excited about. Let me know in the comments down below what you're excited about reading next year, and also if you're excited about any of the books that I've mentioned in this video. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Have a great day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!